Supreme Admiral Vex-Nine clicked his mandibles in what the Corvathian species considered amusement. Standing on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, he gazed through the viewport at the small blue planet rotating lazily in the void. Earth. Such an insignificant little rock, yet it had caused the Galactic Coalition more trouble than 3 major wars combined. Admiral, his aide, Commander Thrawn Beta, scuttled forward with nervous energy. The human delegation has arrived. They're requesting an audience. Vex-Nine's 4 eyes rotated independently, a sign of deep contemplation. Requesting? How quaint. They still think they're in a position to make requests. He turned toward his communications officer. Open a channel to the entire fleet. It's time the galaxy witnessed what happens to species that refuse to comply with Coalition authority. The massive screens throughout the bridge flickered to life, displaying the faces of countless alien commanders across the Armada. Ships from 47 different species had gathered for this moment. The Zilithians with their crystalline exoskeletons, the gaseous, morphic collective, the towering Bruthan war machines, all united under one banner: the complete subjugation of humanity. Fellow commanders, Vex-Nine began, his voice carrying across subspace to every vessel. Today marks the end of human defiance. For too long, these primitive bipeds have resisted our generous offer of integration into the Coalition. Just one thing before we begin. YouTube tells me 94.3% of you watching aren't subscribed. Subscribing is free. It really supports the channel, and you'll get more amazing HFY sci-fi stories delivered straight to you. Don't miss out. They've destroyed our mining operations, sabotaged our trade routes, and had the audacity to declare their little system. What did they call it? A sovereign territory. Laughter echoed through the communication channels. The sound was a symphony of clicks, hisses, growls, and electronic pulses from dozens of different vocal apparatus. But today, the Admiral continued, raising one of his serrated arms for emphasis, we demonstrate the consequences of such foolishness. We have their children. The bridge fell silent, except for the subtle hum of life support systems. Even among the Coalition's most hardened military leaders, the execution of young beings was considered distasteful. But necessary, they told themselves. Sometimes examples had to be made. Commander Thrawn Beta approached cautiously. Sir, the human vessel, Hope's End, is requesting permission to dock. Their delegation claims they're here to discuss terms of surrender. Terms? Vex-Nine's laughter was like grinding metal. The only terms they'll be discussing are funeral arrangements. But yes, let them board. I want them to have front-row seats for the show. 20 minutes later, the human delegation was escorted onto the bridge under heavy guard. 3 figures in simple, dark clothing walked with measured steps, their faces betraying no emotion. The lead figure, a woman with silver-streaked hair and eyes like winter storms, stopped precisely 10 feet from the Admiral's command dais. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran Defense Coalition, she announced. I'm here to discuss the release of the children you've taken. Vex-Nine studied her with all 4 eyes. Humans were such strange creatures, so soft and fragile-looking, yet they'd managed to resist Coalition forces for nearly 2 standard years. Ah, Captain Vasquez, welcome aboard the Eternal Dominion. I do hope you'll find the accommodations educational. Cut the theatrics, Admiral, Vasquez replied, her voice steady as neutronium. You have 147 human children aboard your ships. Children aged between 6 and 16 years old. What are your demands for their release? The Admiral's mandibles clicked rapidly. a sound that made several bridge officers step back nervously. Demands? Oh, my dear Captain, you misunderstand the situation entirely. We're not here to negotiate. We're here to teach. He gestured toward the main display screen, which shifted to show the interior of one of the Coalition's detention ships. Rows of small figures sat in containment cells, their young faces turned upward toward the cameras. Human children, some crying quietly, others maintaining brave facades that broke the hearts of anyone with the capacity for such emotions. You see, Vex-Nine continued, his voice taking on the tone of a professor addressing particularly slow students, the Coalition has tried diplomacy. We've offered trade agreements, technology exchanges, even cultural integration programs. But humanity, in its infinite wisdom, chose rebellion over cooperation. So now we provide a more visceral lesson in consequences. Captain Vasquez's companions shifted slightly, their hands moving imperceptibly closer to their sidearms. The Admiral noticed, but seemed unconcerned. The execution will be broadcast across all human settlements, he announced. Every colony, every space station, every underground bunker where your kind huddles in defiance. They'll watch these children die, and they'll understand that resistance is futile. You're making a mistake, Vasquez said quietly. A catastrophic one. Am I? The Admiral's amusement was palpable. We have 47 species represented in this fleet, over 3,000 ships, weapons capable of cracking planets like eggs. And you think we're making a mistake? The captain nodded slowly. You're about to learn something about humanity that our enemies throughout history have discovered too late. We don't negotiate when you threaten our children. We don't surrender when you hold them hostage. We don't forgive when you harm them. How delightfully primitive, Vex-Nine chuckled. Emotional responses to logical necessities. This is precisely why your species requires integration under Coalition guidance. The communication channels crackled to life as reports began flooding in from across the fleet. The Zilithian commander of the Crystal Spear reported unusual energy signatures detected in the outer system. The Morphic Collective's flagship registered gravitational anomalies near the asteroid belt. The Bruthan war machine Iron Crusher detected massive electromagnetic pulses originating from seemingly empty space. Admiral, his sensor officer called out, we're receiving multiple contacts throughout the system. They're everywhere. Vex-Nine's good humor evaporated like water in vacuum. Explain everywhere, Lieutenant. Sir, we're counting. 30,000, no, 40,000 discrete signatures. Ships of unknown configuration, emerging from what appears to be some form of advanced stealth technology. They're surrounding the entire fleet. The main display shifted to show the sensor readings, and even Vex-Nine felt his confidence waver. The human ships were unlike anything in Coalition databases. Sleek, predatory designs that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with a fluidity that suggested technology far beyond what humanity should possess. Captain Vasquez hadn't moved from her position, but now she was smiling. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Admiral, meet the Terra Fleet. Every human world, every colony, every station contributed ships for today. Miners, traders, scientists, teachers. They all have children too. The communication channels erupted in controlled panic as Coalition commanders reported being completely surrounded. The human fleet had appeared from nothing, materializing like ghosts from the deep void. But these weren't the crude patchwork vessels the Coalition had faced in previous encounters. These ships hummed with power that made nearby instruments scream warnings. Impossible, Vex-Nine muttered. Our intelligence reports indicated limited human military capacity. Where did you acquire such technology? Such numbers? You want to know our secret? Vasquez leaned forward slightly. 3 years ago, when you first demanded our submission, you made one crucial error in judgment. You assumed we'd fight you the way we fight each other. With politics, with economics, with limited resources and competing interests. The Admiral's 4 eyes focused entirely on her now, sensing something far more dangerous than he'd initially calculated. But when you threatened our children, she continued, you unified something that had never been truly unified before. Every human government, every corporation, every private citizen, every criminal organization, every rebel faction, all working toward one goal: building a fleet specifically designed to kill you and everything like you. The bridge trembled slightly as the human ships moved into attack formations. The Coalition fleet, despite its massive size, was suddenly looking very much like prey surrounded by predators. You see, Admiral, humans have been fighting wars for as long as we've existed. We've gotten very, very good at it. And there's one rule every successful human military commander learns. When facing an enemy who threatens children, you don't take prisoners. You don't accept surrender. You don't negotiate. Commander Thrawn Beta's voice cracked with stress. Admiral, the human ships are powering weapons. Energy signatures are. By the void? What kind of weapons are those? Vex-Nine stared at the tactical display, watching as the human fleet prepared to engage. Each ship bristled with weapon systems that defied Coalition understanding of physics. Energy readings suggested technology that shouldn't exist, power sources that violated several laws of thermodynamics. Captain Vasquez, he said carefully, surely we can discuss this rationally. The children are still unharmed. We could arrange. No. The word cut through the bridge like a blade. You had your chance for rational discussion. You chose to threaten children instead. Now you face the consequences. The communication system crackled with an incoming transmission from the human fleet. A voice, calm and professional, filled the bridge. Coalition forces. This is Admiral Marcus Stone of the Terra Fleet. You are ordered to release all human prisoners immediately and withdraw from this system. You have 30 seconds to comply. Vex-Nine's mandibles clicked frantically. This is Supreme Admiral Vex-Nine of the Galactic Coalition. We outnumber your forces 3-1. Our ships are armed with quantum disruptors and Nova-class warheads. You cannot possibly— 20 seconds, the human voice interrupted. The Coalition Admiral looked around his bridge, seeing fear in the faces of officers who'd never known defeat. His sensor readings showed impossible things. Human ships that generated their own gravitational fields, weapons that seemed to bend space-time itself, defensive systems that made their hulls appear to exist in several dimensions simultaneously. 10 seconds, came the human voice. Captain Vasquez stepped closer to the Admiral's command dais. You wanted to teach us about consequences, Admiral. Class is now in session. 5 seconds. Vex-Nine opened his mouth to order his fleet to attack, but the words never came. The human ships moved first, and when they did, they didn't just attack. They erased. The first wave of human weapons fire didn't explode against Coalition shields or pierce through armor plating. Instead, entire ships simply ceased to exist, leaving behind perfectly spherical voids in space where matter had been converted directly to energy according to equations that made physicists weep. Impossible! Thrawn Beta screamed over the chaos. Our shields are rated for— His words were cut short as the Eternal Dominion shuddered under impact from weapons that ignored shields entirely, reaching through them as if they were nothing more than colored light. Emergency klaxons wailed throughout the ship, as hull breaches appeared in patterns too precise to be random. On the tactical display, Coalition ships were disappearing at an alarming rate. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone. The human fleet moved through their formations like a scythe through wheat, each shot perfectly placed, each maneuver calculated with inhuman precision. "Admiral!" The communications officer's voice cracked with terror. The detention ship, Sorrow's Edge, is reporting catastrophic system failures. They're losing life support to the prisoner sections. Vex-Nine's blood ran cold. The children. If they died now, in the chaos of battle, what would the humans do? His imagination, suddenly working overtime, provided several horrifying possibilities. "Order the immediate release of all prisoners," he commanded. "Get those children to escape pods now." "Sir," Thrawn Beta reported, 17 Coalition ships have been eliminated. The humans haven't lost a single vessel. Their weapons are. They're using technology we don't understand. Captain Vasquez watched the battle unfold with satisfaction that chilled the Admiral's multiple hearts. "Oh, we understand it perfectly. We just had 3 years and unlimited resources to figure out how to kill you efficiently." The human voice returned to the communication channels. "Coalition forces, you have failed to comply with our demands. We are now implementing total sanction protocols. Any vessel that does not immediately jettison all human prisoners and begin evacuation procedures will be eliminated." "Total sanction protocols?" Vex-Nine asked, though part of him really didn't want to know the answer. Vasquez's smile widened. "It means we're not just here to rescue the children, Admiral. We're here to ensure this never happens again. To anyone." As if to emphasize her point, 3 more Coalition ships vanished from the tactical display, their matter converted to pure energy in microseconds. The human fleet continued its methodical advance, each shot placed with surgical precision. "The Bloodied Claw is reporting successful prisoner transfer," an officer called out. "All human captives are away in escape pods." "And the others?" Vex-Nine demanded. "Working on it, sir. But the humans, they're not waiting. They're eliminating any ship that doesn't comply within their time limits." The Admiral watched his mighty fleet being systematically annihilated by an enemy that shouldn't exist. Ships he'd counted on, vessels that had conquered dozens of star systems, were being erased from existence by technology that defied understanding. "Captain," he said, turning to face Vasquez, "what do you want?" "What do we want?" She seemed to consider the question carefully. "We want our children back. We want your fleet to leave our system. And we want every species in your coalition to understand that humanity is not available for conquest, integration, or any other euphemism for slavery you prefer to use." "Done," Vex-Nine said quickly. "Consider it done. But please, call off your ships. We surrender." Vasquez looked at him with something that might have been pity. "Admiral, you still don't understand. This isn't about surrender. This is about making sure you never threaten human children again." The human fleet's systematic elimination of Coalition forces continued. Each ship that failed to comply immediately was simply removed from existence. The message was becoming terrifyingly clear. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was demonstrating a capacity for warfare that exceeded anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. And they were just getting started. The escape pods containing human children streaked safely toward the Terra Fleet's hospital ships, their tiny forms illuminated against the backdrop of Coalition vessels being systematically erased from existence. Admiral Marcus Stone watched from the bridge of his flagship, Retribution's Dawn, as the last of the captives reached safety. All children accounted for and receiving medical attention, his tactical officer reported. Minor malnutrition and psychological trauma, but they'll recover. Stone nodded grimly. And the Coalition fleet? 63% eliminated. The remainder are attempting to surrender or flee. Orders, sir. The Admiral's weathered face showed no mercy. Continue operations. Every ship that participated in this atrocity gets the same treatment. No exceptions. Back aboard the Eternal Dominion, Supreme Admiral Vex-Nine watched his command structure collapse in real time. Coalition ships were either fleeing the system at maximum velocity or being converted to expanding clouds of superheated plasma. His communications board lit up with desperate pleas from commanders across the fleet. Admiral, this is insane. Commander Thrawn Beta clutched his console as another massive tremor shook their flagship. They're not following any recognized rules of warfare. They're executing surrendering vessels. Captain Vasquez remained unnaturally calm amid the chaos. Rules of warfare? You mean like the ones that protect non-combatants? The ones that prohibit targeting children? Vex-Nine's 4 eyes swiveled to focus on her. This is genocide. You're wiping out entire crews. Genocide? Vasquez laughed, and the sound carried no warmth whatsoever. Admiral, let me tell you about genocide. 3 months ago, your forces glassed the colony on Kepler 442b. 40,000 civilians, including 8,000 children, because they refused to provide slave labor for your mining operations. The Coalition Admiral's mandibles clicked nervously. That was a legitimate military target. They were harboring insurgents. 6-year-olds were harboring insurgents. Vasquez's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Admiral, you have no idea what you've awakened. For centuries, humans fought each other. We were good at it, but we held back. We had rules, conventions, moral limitations, but when you started targeting our children across multiple worlds— She paused, watching as another Coalition dreadnought simply ceased to exist on the tactical display. You unified us in ways we'd never been unified before. Every government opened their classified weapons programs. Every corporation donated their most advanced research. Every criminal organization contributed their most creative methods of destruction. And every parent in human space demanded we build something that would make sure this never happened again. The communication channels erupted with panicked reports. The Zilithian crystal ships, pride of their military, were being shattered by weapons that resonated at precisely the frequency needed to destroy their molecular bonds. The Morphic Collective's gaseous vessels found themselves compressed into solid matter by gravitational manipulators that shouldn't exist. The massive Bruthan war machines discovered that their supposedly impenetrable armor meant nothing against weapons that attacked on a subatomic level. "This is Commander Exoth Prime of the Void Stalker," came a desperate transmission. "We surrender. We're jettisoning all weapons and powering down engines." The response from the Terra fleet was immediate and final. The Void Stalker joined its comrades in non-existence. "You're not accepting surrenders," Vex-Nine realized with growing horror. "Why would we?" Vasquez asked reasonably. "You didn't accept the surrender of those children you murdered on Kepler 442b. You didn't show mercy to the families on Proxima Station when they begged for their lives. You made your position very clear, Admiral. No quarter given." She gestured toward the tactical display where the human fleet continued its methodical work. "So, no quarter received." Admiral Stone's voice filled the bridge through the communication system. "Attention remaining Coalition forces. You are witnessing the implementation of the Terran doctrine of absolute response. When you threaten human children, There are no rules, no limitations, and no mercy. This message is being broadcast on all subspace frequencies for the benefit of any species considering similar actions. Vex-Nine watched in fascination and terror as the human ships moved with inhuman precision. No wasted shots, no unnecessary maneuvers, just efficient, calculated destruction. It was like watching a machine built specifically for killing operate at peak efficiency. "How?" he asked quietly. "How did you develop such technology so quickly?" Vasquez smiled again, and Vex-Nine was beginning to hate that expression. "You want the truth, Admiral? We didn't develop it quickly. We've had these weapons for decades. Every human military has been working on planet-killer technology since we first reached the stars. We just never had a reason to use it before." "That's impossible. Our intelligence networks would have detected—" "Your intelligence networks detected exactly what we wanted them to detect. Basic fusion drives, kinetic weapons, chemical explosives. We let you think we were primitives because primitives don't get conquered by overwhelming force. They get offered generous terms for integration." The tactical display showed the Coalition fleet's strength dropping below 40%. Ships were fleeing in all directions, but the human vessels seemed to be everywhere at once, cutting off escape routes with impossible speed. "The children were never the real target, were they?" Vex-Nine asked with dawning comprehension. "Oh, they absolutely were," Vasquez corrected. "You genuinely intended to execute them to break human resistance. But you also gave us the perfect justification for what we're about to do next." "Which is?" Instead of answering, she activated her wrist communicator. "Admiral Stone, this is Ground Zero. Package is secure, all children recovered. You are cleared for Phase 2 operations." "Acknowledged, Ground Zero. All ships, implement broken chain protocols. Target every Coalition military installation within 50 light-years. No facilities are to remain operational." Vex-Nine's blood turned to ice. "You're attacking our bases? Our supply lines?" "Admiral," Vasquez said patiently, "did you really think we'd stop at just this fleet? You've demonstrated that the Coalition considers human children legitimate military targets. That makes every Coalition military asset a threat to human families. Therefore, every Coalition military asset gets eliminated." The sensor displays began showing new contacts throughout the surrounding star systems. Human fleets, apparently hidden throughout Coalition space, were simultaneously attacking every military installation, supply depot, and command center within a vast sphere of operations. "This is Admiral Keth 7 of Home Fleet Command," came a frantic transmission from the Coalition's primary naval base. "We're under attack by unknown vessels. They appeared without warning and are systematically destroying all orbital installations." Similar reports flooded in from across Coalition territory. The humans weren't just defending their system. They were launching a coordinated strike against military targets throughout an entire sector of the galaxy. "Impossible," Thrawn Beta whispered. "The logistics alone, the planning required. This would take years of preparation." 3 years, 2 months, and 16 days, Vasquez confirmed. "Ever since you first demanded our submission, we've been placing assets, gathering intelligence, and preparing for this exact scenario." Admiral Stone's voice returned to the communication channels. "Coalition Command, this is Admiral Marcus Stone of the Terran Defense Fleet. Your military capabilities within 50 light-years of human space are being systematically eliminated. This operation will continue until every Coalition military asset in the region has been neutralized." "This is madness," Vex-Nine protested. "You're declaring war on 47 species simultaneously." "No," Vasquez corrected quietly. We're ending a war that you started when you decided our children were expendable. The Coalition threatened to integrate humanity by force. Consider this our formal rejection of that proposal. The tactical display told a story of complete military collapse. The original Coalition fleet was down to less than 20% strength, with ships either destroyed or fleeing at maximum speed. Meanwhile, reports from across Coalition space indicated that their entire military infrastructure was being systematically dismantled. "Our shipyards at Vega Prime are gone," came another desperate report. "The humans used some kind of gravitational weapon that collapsed them into singularities." The Naval Academy at Rigel is requesting immediate evacuation. Human ships have surrounded the system and are demanding unconditional surrender. Command Base Alpha 7 is no longer responding. Last transmission indicated massive explosions across all orbital platforms. Vex-Nine slumped in his command chair, the full scope of the disaster becoming clear. The Coalition hadn't just lost a fleet. They'd lost their ability to project military power across an entire region of space. "You planned this all along," he said accusingly. "The children were bait." "The children were innocent victims," Vasquez replied sharply. "But their capture did provide us with the moral authority to do what we've been preparing for. Every human world will support total warfare when the enemy targets children." She activated her communicator again. "Admiral Stone, requesting permission to implement final protocol." "Granted. All human ships. Commence bombardment of Coalition homeworlds. Military targets only, but leave no military infrastructure intact." The communication channels exploded with horror as Coalition commanders realized the scope of human intentions. They weren't just attacking military installations, they were preparing to strike the heart of Coalition power itself. "You can't!" Vex-Nine lurched to his feet. "Our homeworlds house billions of civilians. This violates every law of civilized warfare." "Does it?" Vasquez asked mildly. "We're targeting military installations, just like you did on Kepler 442b. The fact that you built those installations near civilian populations is your responsibility, not ours." The irony was not lost on the Admiral. The Coalition had justified countless atrocities by claiming civilian facilities were legitimate military targets. Now that logic was being applied to their own worlds. "Please," he said, desperation creeping into his voice. "There must be some way to resolve this diplomatically. Name your terms: reparations, territorial concessions, trade agreements." Vasquez studied him for a long moment. "Terms? Very well. Complete and immediate withdrawal of all Coalition forces from human space, and a 50-light-year buffer zone around every human world. Dismantling of all Coalition military assets within 100 light-years of any human settlement. And formal recognition of humanity as a sovereign power with full territorial rights." "Done!" Vex-Nine said quickly. "All of it! I have authority to negotiate on behalf of the Coalition Council." "And," Vasquez continued, "every Coalition species provides DNA samples and detailed biological profiles to human xenobiology departments." The Admiral hesitated. "Why would you need—" "Oh, that's right. We're going to develop species-specific biological weapons for every member of your Coalition. Not to use aggressively, but to ensure that if any of you ever threaten human children again, we can eliminate your entire species without harming anyone else." The bridge fell silent except for the ongoing reports of Coalition military facilities being systematically destroyed across multiple star systems. The scope of human planning and preparation was becoming clear. This wasn't a desperate defensive action. It was the execution of a plan years in the making. The children, Vex-Nine said quietly. They were never in any real danger, were they? Vasquez's expression softened slightly. They were in very real danger from your people. But we've had assets monitoring your fleet since you entered human space. The moment you moved against non-combatants, our response was inevitable. Admiral Stone's voice filled the bridge one final time. Coalition forces, this is your final communication from the Terran Defense Fleet. Your military capabilities have been neutralized across multiple sectors. Your homeworld defensive installations are being systematically eliminated. You have 48 hours to ratify the terms transmitted by Captain Vasquez. Failure to comply will result in the implementation of sterilization protocols against all Coalition worlds. Sterilization protocols? Thrawn Beta asked weakly. Complete elimination of all life above the bacterial level, Vasquez explained matter-of-factly. We prefer not to use them, but if you force our hand by threatening children again, she left the sentence unfinished, but the implication was clear. Vex-Nine looked around his bridge at the faces of officers who had begun this day confident in their overwhelming superiority and were now contemplating the complete destruction of everything they'd ever known. Message received and understood, he said quietly. Terms accepted. Coalition forces will withdraw immediately. As the human fleet began allowing Coalition ships to retreat, Vex-Nine realized that everything had changed. Humanity hadn't just defended itself, it had demonstrated a capacity for absolute warfare that exceeded anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. And they'd done it all to protect their children. The age of human subjugation was over before it had truly begun. The age of human dominance, however, was just getting started.